So over to you. I mean, the floor is yours. I'm going to throw in some questions every now and again, but yeah. So let's start right back from the first very session. How would you describe yourself when you first took the Mind Reset course? Because that's really where it all started.
So when I took the Mind Reset course, I was in a state of confusion with my mind. That's where I was. I felt like I was confused. I felt like I know what I need to do, but I just don't know how to do it.
Right.
It's like I was just like, there's something not connecting here. So hence when you said to me, let's take the Mind Reset course, it resonated with me because I felt like that's what I need. My mind needs a reset. I really felt like I needed a reset at that point. And so the first part of that chapter was obviously going into that course and looking at the 5 pillars and be as honest as you can be with yourself. Just keep it real with yourself. And I felt like, wow, that was quite a significant point for me, because up until that point I had never really microscopically looked at some of the details of my life at that point. My mental well-being, I always thought I've got, my mental well-being, I'm cool, emotionally well, I'm good. I've always thought I was good. And when you go deeper than that, you look at it and you think, wow, you're just probably good on the outside. It looks good on the outside, everything, yeah, I'm cool. And so that's what we tend to say, innit? I'm cool, I'm good. But half of the time, you're not even that good. You're not as good as you say you are, or you're not as cool as you think you are as well. So that started to open up things for me. Um, and then spirituality as well, the spiritual part of it, I felt like, wow, you know, though I've always grown up and I've always had that spirituality, but it's one thing knowing about spirituality and it's another thing moving in it and actively being a part of it. So that was a good reintroduction back into what I knew in terms of growing up and what was instilled in me, but obviously never been taught to me in the sense that I could appreciate it. Because when you're doing it, when it's all from the religion aspects and stuff like that, it gets a bit overwhelming or it gets a bit confusing, and then you tend to back off a little bit.
Right.
Because you think, you know what, I don't really get this well then, because it's one thing you're saying over there, it's another thing that's going on over there. I don't really know. And so obviously that's where we started to look at other things.
So are you saying that for you, because it wasn't something that had been orchestrated, you just found that it opened you up to wanting to explore and investigate spirituality the more?
Yeah, for sure. Because as like Brother Ishmael says, they don't teach you spirituality, they teach you religion, but they don't teach you spirituality.
Right. So how did that come about though? Because here you are going on a course for a mind reset. So how does the religion versus spirituality aspect come into the equation?
Because I before that I was always contemplating that I want to get closer to God.
Right. Okay.
But I wasn't comfortable with that, with the conventional way of doing it.
I see. Okay. And so this now offered you a way to explore that in the way that you felt comfortable.
More comfortable, yeah.
Okay. So this was just 14 days on the Mind Reset course, but it began to open you up to all of these experiences.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So as a result of that, we then had a session. And as a result of that session, really determined whether or not you should progress to the next stage, which was the Grow
GPS.
Personal Success, the GPS Holistic Mentoring Program one-to-one course. And so we agreed that it would be advantageous for you, and we stepped on that. So how did you find, because that's really where the journey really began to blossom. So how did you find, let's start off at the first session, because I think you had very significant experiences all the way along.
all the way along.
Would you
Yeah.
like to take us through some of them, starting from the first one?
So the first one, what I do remember in the first one, which I wrote down, was quality of thought. When we explored that, because you may have asked me some questions and it was all over the place, and it was like, what is it that you're thinking about? What quality you have to think. Your thoughts have to be of quality. Do you have quality thoughts? And I was like, wow, that's a bit groundbreaking for me, isn't it? Because quality thought, like you just think, and your thinking is of quality, but how much of a quality is it? Because I had never thought about it, and when you said that, I then started to think, okay, it then started to open up just a whole another world to me in terms of, wow, quality thinking. And so that was the first week. So I had to digest that, quality thinking. How am I thinking? What am I, what type of thoughts are in my head? What's really going on? You know. And then you said something as well, that our words betray our thoughts. I think that's the
That's
word.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Words betray your thoughts. So I was like, wow, that's quite interesting. So then the second week,
So why was that interesting to you?
it was interesting to me because sometimes you're just speaking.
Oh, but you don't realize that someone else is hearing exactly.
Right. So whatever you say, the other person, how they look at it is like, well, that must be your thinking, isn't it? That must be your thoughts. Whatever you're uttering is what is in your thought process. Yeah. So then when we moved on to the second week, which was now spirituality, it all made sense because it's the unseen and then the seen. So the quality of thinking is the unseen, but the words that you utter is the seen. So then the spirituality side, then okay, so but in order to have the quality of thinking, you need to be closer to the most high, because that's the source of your thinking. That's the source of the quality. If it's not attached to that, it's going to be all kinds of thoughts, that you can't control or that you don't want. So the second week made it all clear to me in that sense. And obviously I was babying it. I'm still babying it, but it just started to click a bit, like, wow, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
You
And
know.
then from there we progressed. So what was
And then
the next week like for you?
next week was about my relationship.
And that was a turbulent one, wasn't it?
That was turbulent, because on the 29th of December, it just went wild. It just went wild. I was like,
And when
wow.
you say well, basically you mean you were at the verge of breaking point.
It was breaking point. It was out of control. It was angry. It was like, and I didn't see it coming but it just meant that, wow, there's things that hadn't been addressed and things that needed to be addressed. And there was a lot of things in there. There was my attitude. There was the way I perceive things, the way I see things, the way I was looking at things, and just
The way you react to things as
the way
opposed
I
to
react, right? The way I reacted to things. And so,
and it's important to recognize that, as I'm sure you do, that that day you almost lost everything that you really love,
yeah,
meaning your
definitely.
partner and your child.
Yeah,
It's,
because
it
on
wasn't.
that day, I was saying to Talene, I was like, I was so angry. I was saying, no, you got like, when I get home, I don't want to see you there. You better go to your mom's. And she was like, well, look, if we go to my mom's, we're not coming back. I was like, right. I thought, okay, all right, listen.
Those words, I didn't realize that those words were actually uttered.
Yeah. She goes, yeah. I said, you better go to your mom's. I said, I don't know where you're staying tonight, and I don't know where I'm staying tonight, but you better go to your mom's. And then she was like, well, if I go to my mom's, I ain't coming back. And I was like, you mean you're not? So I thought, wow. So I went to my sister's house and I just thought, okay, let me just take a chill pill. Um,
And so how did your session assist you in that serious situation?
because that situation, I was still the session, I was still a little bit in my feelings. But then when you said, well, you made an agreement with someone to do something and then you've not honored that agreement, that's where the issue is, because it's very simple. You had an agreement to do something and you've not honored it. So that person now, they've got the right to see how they want to see it, because obviously you've not honored your part. So, but I was in my feelings up until that point.
So had had the session not occurred, and fortunately for you, it happened, if not the very next day or a couple of days after, I think.
Yeah, the session was the very, because it happened on Saturday, so the very next Tuesday was the next session. Yeah.
And up until that point, things were very kind of dicey.
Yeah,
I
very
remember how
dicey.
you came to the session very stressed
Yeah,
and very distressed. But by the end of the session, if I'm not mistaken, she had joined our session,
yeah,
and that was the turning point,
yeah,
because you were able to see past your feelings.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was able to see beyond that, and yeah, just they had the tools to be able to look at it now and say, well, okay, cool. And my reaction, which I didn't know had even a deeper meaning, which was weeks down the line. Um,
I had mentioned before, I don't know if it's possible because of the timing, but I had mentioned last week if it was possible for your good lady to just give us a few um, perspectives from her viewpoint as to how this journey has been. Is
yeah,
that something that could still be possible?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, would you like us to have your experience for the whole 12 sessions first of all, and then we can bring her in
All
to
right.
get her perspective?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So all right. So we get through the session, and you get this new level of clarity.
Yeah.
Really affects every area of your life because it's
Yeah.
about honoring your agreements. Okay.
So it's now, just the way I deal with things, the way I react to things changed, the way I dealt with her changed, the way I dealt with my son as well had changed to that at that point, because it was like, wow, that situation has affected everything. So I needed to look at it. So that week was significant, and moving on to the fourth week as well, because it spilled a little bit onto the fourth week in terms of just clearing it up and seeing where I was. And then moving on that one after that week, I remember talking about the power of alignment um, and clarity.
Well, I think you kind of missed a little significant part, which was, if you remember, we had to do a journey back into your past. That.
That was the week after. That was the weeks after.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, that was the weeks after. The week after that, as I said, I remember we was talking about, there was a few things in the fourth week, the fifth week, and the sixth week. We covered things like reticular activity system. We covered power of alignment. We covered
Reticular activating system. Yes, we did.
reticular activator system, um, cognitive dissonance, detailed thinking, value, words and listening, intentional speaking, and what I'm choosing to hold in my mind. Those would be
Wow.
in the fourth, the
So
fifth.
you really, yeah, okay. You're really clear about what you gained from those. That's really, really good to hear.
So
So
so those weeks was then
there's a lot going on in your head.
yeah, I'm saying, that was on picking a lot of those things, and what I mean, learning, and like, wow, what's cognitive dissonance, the whole two, reflections of of the mind, and you know how one thinks this way and the other one can contradict it and stuff like that. And then the reticular activator system, which is filtering the data and all that, you know, that your mind in your mind. So there was a lot of unpicking stuff, you know, clarity in terms of, you know, you were saying to me, if I when I talk, I need to be clear and I need to be direct. You know, there was all those unpickings happening in the fourth, the
Because
fifth.
you weren't aware, you were just spitting basically when you
Yeah,
really just spitting words
yeah,
and not really contextualizing your thoughts around those words.
yeah. So
And so
and
then we
then
moved on, you're saying.
say that again.
Thereafter, then you're saying that you moved on to
Then in the seventh and the eighth, we spoke. We dealt with the tackling, the pain, the rejection. You know, building for my son. That was we had to deal with that for the seven and
yes.
eight week.
And so recognizing that there was a lot of pain way back in your childhood that was not processed and that was
No process. Yeah,
and impacting you,
yeah,
even to the point that it was affecting your relationship with your son and you weren't aware of it
yeah,
until you actually got to that point.
yeah. And the way I deal with him now is so much more. It's just totally different.
Wow.
You know what I mean? The things that I would get a bit antsy, I don't even do that no more. I just work with him. Like, what's the problem? How do I help you? How do daddy assist you instead of daddy getting like, oh, why are you crying? Or why are you doing that? Or don't, you know what I mean? Why are you not? I'm trying to show you love and you're just still crying. So the way all that is changed now is like, you know, it's like I'm there if he wants to cry or if he needs that, it's my duty to find out what it is bothering him, not for it to bother me why he's crying. I'm saying,
Like backward, proper, right?
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it bothering me, or why are you crying? You know, keep quiet. No, let me find out exactly what's happening. It's like this morning, he was crying and he couldn't say the words, and we didn't know why he was crying, but I think he had something on his private that was irritating him a little bit. And
Right.
his mom was saying, use your words. And he was like, oh, you know, all he knew, he was saying strawberries. And the strawberries, what he meant was this cowpole, because it's strawberry. So obviously he knows that it's a pain reliever. So he was like strawberries. His mom's like, oh, apple. He said, no. Pear. He said, no. He said strawberries. So when we gave him the strawberries, it was like, yeah, that's what I want.
Oh wow, because he's worked out that it's a
It's a pain reliever.
wow.
You know what I mean?
How intelligent is that?
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, you know. So the point I'm making is that prior to that, maybe I would have been like, why are you crying? You know, it's early in the morning. Why are you
So
know, but
what you learned as a result of those sessions was seeking to understand
yeah,
as opposed to just dictating, because
yeah,
you're actually rehearsing that kind of dictator parenting that many of us, especially those from Africa, have
yeah.
experienced. So you were going to repeat the pattern.
I'm gonna repeat, right? Rather than understanding and listening and what is the problem, and then getting to the bottom of it with him and for him. And so yeah, that changed. So my way of dealing with him is just just change 100%, 100% as well.